Fuga.
Okay. This morning, I have a 2004 or 5, I'm not yet sure, 2004 or 5 Nissan Fuga with a 2.5 V6 engine. The problem with it, you see they've ripped the right hand side of the dashboard, at least the bottom part. They've ripped it apart already. This vehicle came here for body works. There were some dents that had to be straightened out. That was done, and then the customer also said some of the lamps, headlamps or fog lamps, I don't know which, I haven't checked, were not working. So an electrician came and did restore the lamps to working order. They are supposedly working now, but after that the vehicle became a no crank, no start. And during that time I was out of the country, so I returned 2 days ago, and this is actually the first job I'm tackling. Trying to get onto, this is the diagnostic connector down here. I'm trying to get the diagnostic machine to operate. I understand there is a new battery on the vehicle, so at least I'm not expecting problems with that. Right, so I have basically Nissan Fuga, no crank, no start, and this may be a bit complex because it has keyless entry. The key is actually here, but it's the keyless smart entry system. So I'm pushing the key in now, and once I have that, everything has been ripped apart, but the switch here, the ignition switch is here. So it's now in ACC, and you can hear the bongs and on. And straight away I can see on the instrument cluster, I don't know how well you can see it from that angle, but I'm already concerned because the light for this key is not going out. That shows me the security system is not yet happy with the key in the ignition. I'll first get into, I want to get into the security system first and see if it has any issues. See first of all if it can communicate, and then find out if it find out what if any issues it's got. Okay, Nissan nut system. The Nissan Fuga is the same car as the on the American market. It's the Infiniti M35 stroke M45. I think the major difference between the Fuga and the Infinitis M45 and M35 really is the engine size. The Fuga has a V6 2.5 liter. The M35 has a V6 3.5 liter, and the M45 has a V6, rather V8 4.5 liter. The biggest difference really is in the engine, but the equipment seems to be similar. So I'm looking for the Fuga. This must have been the early model Y50. Let me go for the earlier version. And here I'm looking for, first of all, let me try to get into the engine, because I'm sure that has a lot to do with the cranking. So excuse me. So the engine control module isn't communicating. Things are getting interesting already. Intelligent key, I think that's where I want to go now. That should be the security system, because I believe this vehicle has an intelligent key system, and yes, the system has responded. I'm trying to find out if it has any port codes, and yes, it does have several. CAN communication, steering lock unit, SCC power circuit, stop lamp circuit, engine start switch, PDU. All those, it's complaining about all those circuits, but because when I came here, I found this all ripped apart, but I can see it has all been connected back. I think all these guys that the system is complaining about were disconnected, but they were restored. The only sockets which seem to be hanging are going to the trunk opening switch, the mirrors, some deep light settings, and all that. I believe all this has been reconnected. So what I'm going to do now is to delete these codes and then see which come back. If they all come back, then I know for sure these connections are not secure yet. So it says it has deleted them. Let me read the codes again. Oh yes, and the lamp, you see the lamp has gone out, the lamp for the key. So it's saying the only code now left is the U1000 CAN communication circuit. So that tells me that the fault probably is not with the smart key entry system. It is with another module on the vehicle, which the keyless entry, the smart entry module is looking for. And because I didn't see the engine control module respond, I believe we are going towards in the direction of the engine control module. It's probably dead asleep, or it has something wrong with it. But before I go there, before I go back to the engine control module, I want to monitor data from the keyless entry system. I'm just going to ask for everything, see anything that looks out of place. I seem to be having, okay. Door signal, P range switch is on. SCC position, nothing looks out of place here. I'll go to the next page. Keyless trunk, door unlock signal. Nothing major here that would stop the car from cranking. P-ring switch. A lot of these, I'm not sure what they're about. ID or flag. I'm looking for any information, any data here that is related to the engine control module. Any data that this smart entry module would require from the keyless entry, and I would want to look at the status of that data. That's what I'm looking at. Remote engine start, reset, engine switch is off. Ignition power, oh, that's on. SC power fob, so it's talking about this the button, the ignition switch. I don't see anything. Oh, the air conditioning is running, rather the fan is running, and I need to turn it off so that I don't use up the battery. That doesn't seem to be working. The fans are still running. Anyway, I don't see anything really unusual on this data, and I don't want to spend a lot of time here. I've already seen the engine control module is not communicating. One last thing I'm going to do with the scan tool. Okay, let me also validate that the car actually doesn't crank. So I've got my foot on the brake pedal, and when I press this to start the engine, I don't know if you can see that. When I press it like that, it should be cranking, and it isn't. So, yep, the symptoms are as described. I'm going to go back. When I step on the brake pedal, it recognizes that I have. When I step off, it says it's going to say off. Yeah, off now. Put on the brake pedal, it says on. So I think the smart entry system is working fine. Doesn't it have any data to show me if the crank, if I press crank? I don't see any of that. Okay, says engine switch here. Let me try it and see if it does. Oh yeah, it does recognize that. Press the crank position. I don't know if you can see that well. You see that the top here, the highlighted data list. Here it's saying off. When I press that, it says on. So yes, it does recognize that I've pressed this, but for whatever reason, engine is not cranking. Right. I'm going to go to data. Basically, just to do a roll call on the other modules and see if any of them, like the traction control module, transmission control module, all those guys that need data from the engine control module, if they all turn up with a U1000 fault code, then that is more that will push me more towards investigating the engine control module. First, it's power than grounds, but before that, let me do the roll call thing I was talking about. even get there. Anyway, let me go to the IPDM, Intelligent Power Distribution Module, see if it is, yeah, it has a U1000 CAN communication circuit port. Good. Then I back out of that system. I want to go into the ABS system. It has responded. Let me find out what port codes are there. It has one for the front left wheel speed sensor, but it also has a U1000 CAN communication. And now I want to talk to the transmission one. Those are the three modules I'm sure would require data from the four modules actually would require data from the engine control module. Yes, even the transmission control module has 5 codes, but one of them is a U1000 CAN communication circuit. So those 4 modules, smart key entry control module, transmission, ABS, and what was the other one? There was a 4th one. Okay, whatever the list, at least I have 3 or 4 modules that are asking for data or are complaining that they're not seeing communication from the engine control module. So I'm going for the engine control module, powers and grounds if I can get to it. But I think first I'll go to the I'll go under the bonnet and look at the fuses and relays there that are related to the engine control module. Okay, I've now come to the IPDM, Intelligent Power Distribution Module. That is this guy here. I don't know, because of the glare you may not see it very well because it's very bright here and the IPDM is sitting in a dark place, but this is the best shot I could manage. But this is the ECM. The relays of interest are this one, the ECM relay, this one at the bottom, this small one, that is the ignition relay, and this guy here, the second from the top, is the fuel pump relay. Now while I was off camera, I pulled the 3 relays out and tested them using a multimeter, and I even jumped their terminals so they clicked, and I measured the resistance across their power side terminals, and it was 0, so that means the relays are good. So what I'm going to do also, when you turn the key in the ignition on, this relay, the ECM relay, actually clicks. So that means it's sending power from the battery through fuses to the ECM. So my next stop is the ECM to check its powers and grounds, and also check the continuity. If I don't find according to the wiring diagram, I'm supposed to find 3. There is a battery positive hot all the time, 1 wire, and 3 wires should be hot with the key in the on position. So that's where I'm heading next. The 3 wires should be coming from this load side terminal on this relay. So that's why I'm going with that, between here and the ECM. Yes, now I am at the ECM. I've unplugged it. The ECM is actually back here. That, I don't know if you can see that, this guy here, that's the ECM. It's far deep inside, so what I did was to take out the terminal. I didn't need the ECM itself. These are its plugs, the plugs from the going into the ECM. So I took them out and started testing for powers and grounds using the multimeter. And very quickly, what I've discovered so far is that on this wire, which I'm still plugged on, I get power when the key is in the on position. But on the other two wires, these two red wires here, these ones, I don't get power like I should with the key in the on position. So that tells me right now, and I did check the grounds as well. 3 of them they were good. According to the wiring diagram, it has 3 grounds and 3 powers. Now, one of the power is from the ignition key. That is what wakes up the engine control module and tells it to actuate the ECM relay, which in turn puts battery voltage on those 2 red wires. Now, as things stand now, it looks like we have an open between the relay, which I showed you up front, and this connector here. It looks like there's an open between the relay terminal and these 2 red wires. So that's what I'm chasing now. I've got the multimeter plugged between connected between the battery positive terminal with the relay, ECM relay in place, and I'm on this terminal here, one of the wires where the ECM should be receiving battery voltage. And the purpose of that was to check the voltage drop between the two between the battery positive terminal and this terminal here. Reason being is I checked the continuity of the wire with the multimeter between the ECM relay. With the multimeter, it said it had 0.03 ohms, which ideally should be good. But when I with the relay in place, I don't get 12 volts on these wires. So I decided to check for the voltage drop on the wire, and I discovered a voltage drop of with this wire on the negative battery terminal and this wire remaining here, I get about 0.46 volts, which I will show you shortly. That is indicative of a short to ground on those 2 power wires. It's actually the 0.46 volts is on both wires, so that indicated a short. So I came to this, I changed this wire to the battery positive terminal to check the voltage drop, and indeed I'm getting something like 11.37 where I should be reading very near 0. So that is indicative of an open wire, very nearly totally open. But being that I saw 0.4 something volts on the multimeter when I put this wire on the ground wire, you could also be looking at a short to ground. Actually, it could be a short to ground, because when I put this wire to the positive side, to the positive terminal of the multimeter, and I put this on the negative side of the multimeter onto the positive battery terminal, and I get this kind of reading, it is indicative of a short in these wires. So that is this wire on the battery positive terminal. I'm moving it back to the negative terminal, which is here, and I will now go and show you the voltage reading on the multimeter. Showing 0.26 now, so that is indicative of a short. Back to kind of conclude this, because I got interrupted by about work on about 4 other vehicles. I started on this in the morning, and it's now about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm back at these power supply wires to the ECM. Each of them has 0.458 ohms to ground, because the other terminal of the multimeter is now on the ground wire, and that tells me that I have some kind of shorting on the power wires to these wires. Forgive me for pausing while I'm talking, because I'm also thinking, I'm trying to think what the issue here could be. Potentially we could be having a short in the wiring from the relay to here to the feed into the computer, somewhere along that wire, and either that, or it could be in the IPDM itself, because that is what feeds this wire with voltage, and we are not seeing 12 volts coming there. So I think my next step is to go back to the relay on the IPDM and see if I get this same kind of, take the relay out and then pin into that wire coming from the relay on the IPDM, coming here, and see if I get the same kind of resistance. That would mean the issue is isolated to the wire. Okay, so I seem to have misspoke there about the wire. We shall have to prove it by disconnecting, because I'm at the IPDM now, this guy here. So what we need to do is find out which of those wires at the bottom of the IPDM is actually feeding the ECM. There are supposed to be 2 wires, and I can actually see red wires with silver stripes. A few of them. We shall investigate further following the wiring diagram, and but the problem seems to be between the IPDM and those wires. Now we need to eliminate the wiring by unplugging everything from the IPDM, and then checking the wire going to the ECM from the IPDM that is fed by this relay. If that shows it's open, then the problem is in this guy, the IPDM. Okay, we seem to have zeroed in on the problem. It seems to be the IPDM, because when you unplug this wire, which this socket which has the wires running to the ECM, the multimeter tells us it is open. As soon as you move it in to position and it kind of locks, you see that it's reading 0.4 Sorry, I seem to have a loose connection there. It reads something like 20 something whatever mega ohms, which is higher resistance than we saw before, but that shows there is some kind of short, and the short is limited to the IPDM. So there is something wrong with the IPDM. It will have to be replaced.